LaCroix. We're here tonight. We're going to talk about being aging content creators. And, that may be a term that bothers you. We'll talk about that too. But we are definitely content creators that are over 50. And we are so excited to be here tonight to talk about the pros and the cons of that and where we think the industry is kind of going. So if you'll take a minute, Lisa, and introduce yourself, I know everybody's going to be excited to get to know you.
Thank you so much, Camille. I'm so happy to do this, to have this conversation with you. I am a content creator. I'm a speaking coach. I have a background as a film and television actor. I'm a podcaster, and I love creating content for people to help them show up, speak up, take up space, and have a life that's filled with joy and mastery and connection and love. So all the things.
That's amazing. You're amazing in general. I love you. I love your content. It's so freeing for women, and I really think that you are adding incredibly to the space. I mean, just in so many ways. You're just very inspirational to me, and I'm just so glad that I met you online. So, thank you
Totally.
so
Me
much for
too.
yeah, thanks for hanging out tonight. So, you and I were talking about kind of the rise of women as content creators and sort of our, things that we go through as content creators. And so we just wanted to kind of join in with everybody out there and talk about it and just be frank about where things are and sort of the challenges and triumphs. And so, um, do you want to talk about how you started out online, sort of
Sure.
in the
Yeah,
social
and
media realm?
for sure. And let's also say, I would love it if people have comments or questions or their own experience. I'm assuming that you can see the chat. I don't know if I can, but it would be wonderful to hear from your audience about what their experience is around aging. And, if they're content creators or they're people who follow other content creators who are over 50. Like you, I think I got onto TikTok in 2020 during the pandemic. Well, at least that's when I met you. We became connected
Yes.
then. And, we were home and I was already creating content and supporting women's growth through an online mastermind called Women Undone, which was serving women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s navigating change. And I've been thinking about rebranding aging and changing the narrative on aging for quite a few years. I did a talk in 2018 on rebranding aging. And so when the opportunity came up, and I think it was Gary Vee I heard say, hey, if you're over 50, we're needed on TikTok, and here's a new platform. And so it seemed the perfect opportunity. And he definitely tickled my funny bone, which was go first for your space, be a model, be the person who says, let's do this, come on, join the party. And in a space that was pretty new and for the most part dominated by people in younger generations. And for me, that's the sweet spot. That's the opportunity to say, okay, let's change this story. We're going to follow the young people. We're going to go with what's new, and we're going to go first and then say everybody else come on along. So getting connected with you during that period of time was amazing. And there's other women I'm sure that you can name and I can name in the space that it feels so good to be in, what I call linking arms together to change the story. So,
I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think it was 2020 when we met. So that's really exciting because that's about the same time that I got on social media as well. And I started on TikTok. That's where you started as well? Or were
I
you
mean, I
out
had a I
already?
had a very non-existent channel on YouTube, but I really was just posting random things. And I was on Facebook a lot, but it was more close friends and family. So I would say, yeah, TikTok in some ways was the first place I
Yeah.
really, yeah. And
I kind of feel like when I first got on that, well, first of all, I had no real purpose other than to just get on. And I thought, well, it's during the pandemic. I'm kind of bored. I bought a guitar and I thought, well, it's either I'm going to learn how to play this guitar or I'm going to learn how to do social media. Needless to say, I don't play the guitar, but it was really, really, really fun. I had a lot of fun when I first got on. The first 6 months was really kind of a roller coaster. And it was just really, TikTok was a fun place to be. It's still kind of, we talk about it being our playground and a place to try things out, which is really fun. And it's really fun. I think it's fun to be like, I'm 57, I'm almost 60. I think it's fun to have a playground like that. Whether you're
Yep,
just watching people or you're engaging and doing everything, yourself, I think it's just so much fun for us to be out there representing people our age
exactly.
and older.
Yeah,
And I
and
get so excited. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I think it's Chesa has made a comment in saying that she feels old and unnoticed these days, and is 59, and the years have gone by so fast. And I want to acknowledge, because that's one of the reasons that we originally talked about doing this live conversation, is that while
Yes,
we are both as over 50 content creators committed to changing the narrative and being an inspiration and saying what's possible, and you deal with helping women find ways to feel more beautiful and use their makeup well, and I talk a lot about speaking and showing up and taking up space. But what we have been noticing, and I think is such an important thing, is that even though that's our commitment and our intention on our platforms, the real truth is that sometimes we deal with this reality of what it means to be aging. And so both are
absolutely.
true.
Absolutely. And so we kind of have a double whammy. And I feel you, Chesa, because I definitely have had those days where I just feel old and unnoticed. And then it's kind of funny because Lisa and I were talking about this the other day, which kind of sparked the whole thing. And that's that just sometimes you get to that point where there's almost like a calmness, like a beauty in being completely unnoticed. It's like a freeing thing. It's like, wow, I was sitting in my car a couple weeks ago. I was like, there are no guys checking me out. And I don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, it was just really wonderful. Not that I mind if anybody checks me out,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was like, it's just kind of freeing. So I know it can be a little bit of a double-sided sword, definitely. So,
Not even
uh,
just two. I would say it's not even just two sides of a sword. It's so many. It's so many elements, because I think it's possible to feel the grief and loss of our youth at the same time as we feel the liberation from all the constraints that had, at the same time as we say,
yeah,
hey, whoa, there's great possibility for the future and how we see ourselves, at the same time as we're
right.
feeling discouraged and hopeless and whatever. Like, it's all true.
And it's like a muddy soup.
Yeah.
It's like you never know what you're going to get. Some days, you might feel like, okay, this is great to be invisible. And the next day you're like, oh, I'm invisible.
Yeah, totally.
So, absolutely. So,
I see Donna
well, so
Engel
you
made a
guys,
comment. I'm wondering if, Donna, if you're also a content creator, and if so,
yeah,
what your experience is.
yeah, we want to hear from you. And Donna, I know you and I talk all the time. So
Oh,
anyway, thanks for everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you being here and hanging out, and definitely pop in questions and comments. And hopefully we won't get any trolls in here. But I also wanted to say that, when I first got on, and I know we kind of all have our people that are sort of our little kind of heroes in a way, but when I first got on social media, the only one that I can think of that was really doing anything behind flashes, the only knew. You guys noticed there's like this huge bunch of
yeah,
new creators out. And there's so many that are like 50s, 60s, and 70s. And anytime I see them, especially in my niche, I try to encourage them, because I'm so happy they're here. I know it's going to be hard for them, but it's like, oh, they're here. Everybody's showing up to represent.
absolutely. I love that. And I do think that, we have the beautiful, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to support each other, and, behind the scenes, and really encourage and be accountability, inspiration. You're definitely an inspiration for me in terms of your presence and your commitment to showing up all the time. But the fact that who we are, I think, as women, and especially as we get older, one of the great gifts is that we know that it's by empowering others that we rise. We know that the beauty of encouraging, there's all these stories in the narrative about the way women are to each other, and but the real truth is, as I experience it, is that most women are most women are happy to support each other, and happy when there's other people in the same spaces. And I think that's just been such a beautiful thing to see this niche rise.
Absolutely. And one thing, it's typical to think when you're getting into this kind of business, I guess, it's typical to think, wow, everything's really oversaturated. There's no room for me. And there's room for everyone. There's so much room for everyone, especially I think for people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and older, because they have a completely different perspective on things.
Yeah.
And I think just like young people can add to things, I think older people can add to things, and I think we're our best when it's everybody together kind of contributing and figuring out, who we are as people and as women.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's you just hit on something I wanna underline for people maybe who are not content creators, but maybe thinking about it or wanting to be content creators, is that it is a process of personal growth. That it is through creating content that we learn more about ourselves, that we challenge the places that we're afraid, that we notice the places where we don't wanna show up, that we get to be aware of when we contract or we see our own limitations, our own limiting beliefs, and we get to play in them. And so I really would say to anybody who might consider being a content creator to know that it is a process of growth in and of itself. It is a process of learning. It's not just something you wait till you're ready to do. You learn and become and evolve and unfold by doing it.
Absolutely. And you touch on something that is near and dear to my heart, and that's the pains, the growing pains, because the growing pains are real. And not that we didn't have growing pains before we were on social media, but really putting your face in the camera and getting out there and trying to get into the mix of things isn't for the faint of heart. And, we're always talking about, in one way or another, some little fear that we have, and they're just little silly fears. And that's why it's so nice for me to have somebody like you where I can go, oh, I'm scared to do this, or, what if I fail?
Right, can we talk but there was one thing that happened just the other day when I think I forget what it was, but you were saying something about I can't remember. Oh, yeah, you were saying, "Oh, I think I'm" you were feeling discouraged because you had 100 people unfollow you, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Camille, 100 people, given that you have 200,000 followers, 100 is not" so sometimes we have to give ourselves perspective because all those parts of our humanity that wanna tell us we're failing come up to get addressed,
Right,
all the
right.
ways that we're so, so human.
That's so true. Well,
Yeah.
I am definitely human, absolutely human. So do you have anybody who kind of inspired you in your journey, or anybody that you were able to look up to? Because I don't really feel like I had anybody. And that's kind of why I try to reach out to other content creators sometimes and just say, hey, if you need anything and I can help you with it, let me know.
Yeah, I would say it didn't, and when I first the first thing I did before YouTube, it was I had a podcast, an audio podcast, and I was pretty inspired by some of the really big male podcasters, like Tim Ferriss was one that was really big at the time, and I always thought, why does he not have very many women on his show? And I realized, well, because he's a dude, so he's got other guys on
Right.
his show. He's gotten better about that over the years, but at the time, and even still, if you look at the really big male podcasters, they mostly have other guys on their shows. And so I wanted to create a platform for highlighting the voices of women because I felt they were missing in the conversation. And so that was
Yes.
the motivation for me. So I would have to say that people like that, Tim Ferriss, Pat Flynn, were definitely inspirations to me. Also, Amy Porterfield was someone that I did follow and think, okay, she knows something about being online. And and then once I got on YouTube, then I was happy to start seeing more people, like you say, like Hot and Flashy, and just a bunch of other women
Right.
creators. So
Yeah. There are quite a few more now than there were 3 years ago, so I think
definitely,
it's we're definitely starting to, um, just fill up the space a little bit more, and so I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think that women are definitely rising. So, I actually wanted to touch base on some of the problems associated with, being a content creator.
mm.
Just briefly, I didn't want to
Yeah.
drag everybody down, but there are definitely some issues, and as Lisa would say so eloquently, the complexity of being creators, optimizing beauty, and that's a hard one. That really is a hard one. Some days, I just look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling it. And honestly, I'm one of those people, I'm just so good with my own age and my own looks. I'm good with me. I'm a person who could go out in a kayak with a fishing pole and be happy for the rest of my days. That's just me. I'm very simple. But I do like the creativity and the fun of makeup and how it makes me feel and how it can pick up my mood, especially like during the pandemic when we were stuck at home all the time. I needed something to just do to make me feel better. So I got dressed every day and I put makeup on every day. But I did end up talking to some people online who were absolute trolls. And that, I think, in my opinion, is a blessing and a curse. So, do you want to address that for a minute?
Well, what I actually, I have some thoughts on that, but what I want to bring into the conversation is the question back to you, about what I've experienced this myself, and I'm really curious to know how you think about this. But when we go on, so there's the troll thing, and we can talk about the troll thing, but then be, even beyond trolls, there are very well-meaning people who see my content, and I'm gonna guess who see your content and say,
Mhm.
"Why are you making a case that women have to focus on their beauty? Why are you putting
Oh,
attention on
right.
makeup? Why are you continuing the narrative of?" So that's not really trolls, and we can talk about trolls separately. But I'm wondering,
Right.
how do you experience that, and how do you deal with the fact that sometimes people take offense to the fact that, I'm guessing, that you bring beauty content and do makeup tutorials? Is that something
Well,
you experience or no?
that is something I experience. And some of it, I have to remember when I'm reading comments that sometimes in a text form, things just come across, they may mean it one way and I may take it a different way. So I try to never be snarky with anybody.
Yeah,
Try,
totally.
it doesn't always
Yeah.
work, but there have been a couple of times when people have been snarky with me. I've kind of gotten a little snarky back, but in a nice way. But for the most part, I try to have grace with people. I try to just maybe correct whatever it is that they think that I'm doing wrong or have said
Mhm.
wrong or whatever. And then the trolly people, I just usually either I like to blow them kisses. I blow a lot of kisses. So,
I love that. That is a really beautiful way of dealing with trolls. And when I know that when trolls come into my lives, when I used to do more lives, and they would come in, and the thing that I think they would think they were really being funny, they'd say things like, "Are you a man?" Or they'd say, "You look like you're 97." You know,
oh, right.
and I think
Oh,
you told me you had an experience sort of similar to that, and I love that
oh,
you blow
yeah,
them
yeah.
kisses. That's a great response.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I have to interject the 74-year-old grandmother thing here. So, and many people have told me about this. Many of these beautiful people that I've become friends with on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, they'll send me these things, and it's a picture of me doing this banana peel facial, and it'll say 74-year-old grandma shocked doctors. Forget about Botox. Do this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. If you're joining us right now, Eva and other people, we're talking about being content creators over 50. And Camille's just sharing this funny story about how somebody took one of her pieces of content out of context and gave the impression that she was 74. And we're talking about trolls and what we do when trolls come in and say, "You look like you're 90. Hey, grandma."
Oh goodness.
Oh. Yeah, I
Oh
think
my goodness.
the other thing the way that I handle trolls often if they come into lives is I'll say, "Okay, it's all right. Hey, guess what, everybody? We got the teenage boys here." Because, or I'll say, "Wow, imagine being that person who has to go into someone's live and make comments like that. Like, you must not have very much of a life. I'm so
I
sorry."
know. I know. I'm like, let's all pray for this person, please.
Oh, last kiss says, "I clarify nicely and move on. If it continues, I simply block. The percentage of negative outweighs the positive." Totally true, last kiss.
Very,
Concentrate
very
on
true.
those who count your loyal subscribers. I love that last kiss. That's
And
beautiful.
that's so true. That's so true because the best thing I think about this for both of us is probably just the beautiful people that we've gotten
Yes.
to meet, that we've become friends with,
Yep.
that you just create those alliances with, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Most of it's beautiful, and then there's a little sprinkle of the little pepper, sort of trolls, and they keep things interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%. And
they
I,
do.
I and I think it's really great to note, because I think both of us, our intention is to create community, to create connections with other people, to give information that'll be useful, to serve our audiences, to
Yeah.
say what's possible, to give
Mhm.
ideas. And I think the reason that we're wanting to touch on these other things is really just to acknowledge that it's a whole human process, and not to make, because sometimes when you're a content creator, you can feel really sensitive to the fact that maybe you're misleading or just telling all the shiny stories. And I think both of us value authenticity enough that we want to make sure the whole picture is represented.
Absolutely. And not only that, but being a content creator is really, really lonely, and I think a lot of people don't know that. It's like a really lonely business, and where a lot of times maybe I like to work alone, there are those times where something you just said reminded me of this, and it's just that we're stuck like second guessing everything. We don't have a team to go to say, "Well, what do you think about this idea?" And, just what would you do in this situation? So that's where I'm really thankful for you, Lisa, because you've helped me immensely. And I hope that, you'll continue to help me.
Absolutely. No, it's true. It can be really, I think that's one thing you don't realize when you start creating content, is that it does have a certain loneliness to it. Because, I mean, until I started talking with you, I really didn't know none of my friends are content creators.
Mine
And
aren't either.
certainly none of my friends are content creators over 50, which is a very small category. And so I think getting the opportunity to know other people who are doing similar, working on similar processes, really super important. And I would say that's generalizable. Like, I would say the fact that for anybody, because if you're here listening, we're super grateful you're here, and you may not be a content creator, but what this life lesson piece is that
Uh, I didn't hear you. Okay, I'm not sure if we just lost Lisa for a second or if it's me
no,
on
I
my
think I'm
end.
back. No, it
Okay,
was
good.
me.
Okay,
But it's so easy for us to feel isolated and alone in whatever process that it is that we do. That I think the generalizable thing is, if you're doing something where you could use more support, reach out and connect with another person and offer, like Camille said, like, is there a way I can support you? And is
right,
there a way that we can be connected with each other? Because, oh my gosh, it makes such a huge difference. Can the number of times we've gotten on the phone or gotten on Zoom and felt like, well, we don't really have anything to talk about, but here's what I'm dealing with. And just being witnessed and seen in that makes all the difference in the world. I think that's something
right.
everybody can use in their lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And while we're on the topic of sharing, I really want to get into age shaming for just a few minutes if we can.
Let's
So,
do it.
do you have anything else you want to add before we go into that? Because I'm dying to get into age shaming.
No, I mean, I think that's great. Let's talk about that. And yeah. But can we, before we do that, just to have context, I don't know if people would be willing, but I see there's a number of people here with us. And I'm kind of curious to know, is your audience primarily over, like, are we talking to the
We're
sisters
we're
here, or
talking
like,
to we're talking to mostly now most of my the people who follow my channel are going to be between 55 and 70 most. But then there's a big group of people who are over 70, and then there's a pretty
ooh,
substantial group that are under 50. And they're just kind of coming along, and they're more quiet,
Lisa's putting hers in, but if anyone's willing to throw their number in there, yeah, that's great. I'd love to
okay,
get a sense.
great.
Wow, awesome. That's
Thank
beautiful. Thank you all.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. So, Lisa, did you tell us how old you are? I said I'm
I'm 50.
57.
Yeah, I'm 59.
Okay.
I've got 10 months until I'm 60.
Okay. All right. All right. Awesome. 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 Okay. We got a 46. That's our youngest so far. So,
52. So yeah, amazing. How did
okay.
the world come to age shaming, or any
That's
shaming
a
for that
really
fact? That's
great
great. What a
question.
great
That is
segue.
do you want to take that one, Lisa? How did the world
Ooh.
come to age shaming?
Whew.
I think it's very
Well,
cultural. What do you think about that?
I do think it's cultural. I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of cultures that value age, and you don't see
Hmm.
age shaming happening in those cultures.
Hmm.
We live in a very uh, rugged individualist culture, but also I don't, and I'm not really going to speak to why, because I'm not sure why our culture is so much less connected. I think because we're not less of a community, we're more rugged individualistic, so we don't see our lives as being part of a collective so much. If we see our lives as being part of a collective, then we value all the stages. And so, and then as far as shaming itself goes, I think there's something human in people that uh, where insecurities push people to make other people wrong or bad in order
Mhm,
to feel better oneself, something like that.
mhm.
Like it's just a human insecurity piece, I think. And Chloe says it's cultural for sure. Yeah, I think so.
And I think it's a lot different from country to country too. I noticed that
Yes.
I don't get so much of that, and I'm serious, I don't get so much of that from the American culture as I do from some other cultures.
Really?
So, yes, and I don't wanna name anybody, but I'm gonna name them. No, when it comes to, the worst group for age shaming for me personally has
Yeah.
been the Russian speaking group. They
Really?
are by far, yes, yes. They are
That's
by
so
far the worst.
interesting. Hmm. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah,
I have some thoughts about that, but I don't even think I want to name them because they could be so off base. But
right.
I was wondering which culture you were going to say.
Mhm,
Do you find
mhm.
that it happens less, say, in Asian countries where, or I mean, then again, now I'm also thinking Korea, for example, has such a thing on the glass skin and youth and cosmetic surgery and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I think of Asian countries as being collectivist and honoring of the elders. So,
Yes, me too, me too. So I don't know what the differences are really so much between the Russian speaking cultures and ours, but I think that they're much more direct. Like I'm a really direct
mm,
person, but they put me to shame. Like they are really direct. And some of the things that they say is just really even hard for their own people to listen to because I've seen them in my comments, making comments about how awful some of the other people have been in the comments to me. So it's really interesting, but usually when I hit a video, especially on YouTube, that goes over like a million views, man, the crazies come out of the woodwork, and that's where I get a lot of weird comments. And I know that that happens on viral videos, but still, you know,
yeah,
you get a thick skin after a while, but that's where the worst age shaming comments come from. I do get some from
yeah,
some younger people, but a lot of times I think those might be even children, so I don't really say
yeah,
anything to them. And
yeah.
if I do figure out it's a child, I just say, "You know what, honey? I could be your grandma, so you want to love your grandma."
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do think that there's a sense of fear about trolls and really how There's not there's not really it doesn't really impact us. It's only the degree to which we let it get under our skin.
Right,
And so it's a practice also just to be stable and centered in our own selves.
right.
So,
And you would never
uh,
hear the kind of things that are said in your day to day. Like when you're
yeah,
walking through the grocery store, nobody's going to stop you and say, "Wow, you're too old to wear makeup."
yeah.
They're not going to say those kind of things to your face.
Yeah, totally. Oh,
It's
that's
just
thanks for that question, Last Kiss. I don't have the ability to. I don't know if Camille does, but my channel's if you search on Lisa Lacroix, and I think Camille probably
yes,
put it
no,
in
I'm
the
going to
show
put
notes
that
too.
when we're finished.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that those links are all in the description and I'll put them in the top pinned comment so you can find them there as well. Yeah,
Thank you.
so you can find Lisa everywhere, and she'll tell you how to find her too. Do you want to go ahead and do that now? Tell everybody how to find in case they don't stay on too long.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I'm on most platforms as Lisa Lacroix. So my primary platform, I would say that I'm building right now is small as YouTube, and I think if you search on Lisa Lacroix, you'll find me there. I'm also Lisa underscore Lacroix on TikTok and Lisa BL on Instagram. And yeah, I'd love especially people to join me on YouTube and to make some comments on my content there, which is mostly about it's mostly about speaking skills and taking up space, but also increasingly so about relationship and communication and how we build the kind of relationships that we want to have in our life to experience epic love and the integration of all our sides. I also do some ADHD content and a little bit of beauty content, but mostly I'm focusing on communications and speaking. Yeah.
And you are
Oh,
also a competitive dancer as well. You need to tell everybody
I
about that.
am. Okay, thank you. I started dancing when I was 49 when my kids were getting ready to saw them starting to get ready to leave in future years. And I competed in ballroom dance for 3 years until I was about 52. And then when I was 52, I changed to a dance form called West Coast Swing, and I'm pretty passionate about West Coast Swing. I'm a master's over 50 sort of junior dancer, baby dancer, and it's a great process. It's really healthy, it's fun, and I love it. So yeah, I'm a
And
competitive
it's
West
fun
Coast
to
Swing
watch your
dancer.
videos on that too, so I
I
love to watch
occasionally
your
post
videos on
videos.
that.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so Chloe says, "I hate it when someone says you look good for your age." What's that mean exactly? Yeah, that's a great question. I think that that is something that it's kind of a default. Like we don't even think about it when I've said it before to people, and then as I got older, I thought, wow, what does that mean? So it takes a little while to change these sort of conversations that we have and just say, wow, you look great instead of you look great for your age, and nothing is meant badly by it. It's just we need to change our wording a little bit, just like we need to
Yeah.
stop saying things like anti-aging.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of that's a little beef for me, but just to continue on the "you look great for your age" thing, I I think that it highlights what is true, and in both counts. And one is that there's a possibility of not focusing on age, and many of us, that's what we hear when we hear "you look great for your age." Oh, do we really have to be talking about for your age, making that caveat? But the other truth is that it does exist in our culture, and that's why people say it. So, but again, both are true. It exists in our culture, that sort of discrimination or bias, and we can keep on noticing that it doesn't need to be there. Uh, so I also noticed that there was kind of a meme or a viral type video that went around for a while where a lot of people were creating content on that topic, and it was a TikTok video that a lot of people are doing, saying, "No, I just look great," and it was creating a new story on that narrative and underlining
Right.
the fact that oh, I know what it was. It said, "You look great for your age," and say, "Well, what does my age look like?" Here, and it was people doing content saying, "This is 59. This is 59. This is what
Right.
59 looks like." We're like, "What exactly
Right.
does that age look like?" It looks like what we are.
Right. That's right. It looks like what we are. And
Yeah,
everybody's going to look different at the same age, we can all look completely different. So it
exactly.
doesn't sure doesn't matter. So what makes you want to keep creating content? What's your driving force?
Well, I first of all just find it fun.
Mhm.
I find it to be a creative process. I will complain all over the place about the fact that I have to do everything myself. I'm doing all the videoing, I'm doing the editing, I'm doing the sound stuff, I'm doing the voiceover, I'm doing the music picking. Da, da. But I also love that aspect of it. It feels like a great creative process, something to learn that's new. It's always changing. There's always new skills to learn. So I love learning things anew. And so for me, it's just fun. I like to create things. If I wasn't doing video content, I'd probably be doing pottery or photography or, weaving or learning how to sew. For me, I just love that part. And then the other thing is that I do really believe that it's time for us to change stories about how much space women take up in the world. And like I said, instead of saying, well, other people should speak up, I try to be the one that says, okay, let me take this on. It's scary, but I'm going to show up as a stance for the fact that we can tell different stories about who we are in our late 50s,
And that's so
and
true.
onward.
That's so true. And sometimes just showing up is all we have to do. Like we don't have to do anything great every time we get on social media. Just showing up every day for a year can inspire so many people in
Yeah,
some different way, just showing up. So
yeah,
it's not that you have to get on and say anything great or try to be uplifting. You can just get on and show up. I think that's
yeah.
important.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say on that I think is really beautiful about social media is it gives us I mean, I know lots of people who are really high ticket coaches, and I love the fact that we can provide value and support for free on social media. We can reach a lot of people and give, and I can't tell you the number of people who maybe they would have hired me as a speaking coach, but they didn't, and it's okay, but they still reached out to me and said, "Hey, something that you said or did, I've been thinking about if I pause. I've been working on pausing something that I said on social media, and I say it really impacted how I speak and how I think about communicating and the way I interview." That's super meaningful to me personally, and I'm going to guess for you too. When someone reaches out and said, "Wow, your content made a difference in my life, that is worth all the gold.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that actually made me think of content creators that are over 50 specifically and how you think they are being represented in ads. Not
Oh,
not
yeah.
not just ads, but also how we're being treated compared to, I hate to say compared to younger people doing the same thing, but compared to, as content creators, do you feel like we're reached out to as much for the brand deals
Well,
and
I
things
I
like
don't
that?
yeah, I don't know, but I saw someone, who's a brand specialist the other day talking about the fact that, that the category of, midlife women is one that is so needed. I mean, we're a population that spends money. We're a population that has, varying degrees of disposable income. We are often the decision makers in terms of spending in our families. And a lot of times there's a big gap in our representation. So I saw someone who's a branding specialist saying this is a ripe opportunity. And brands are starting to realize that they have to be showing us. I know I was in Target the other day and I see that Target is using real aging women in a lot of their photographs for all their
Great.
clothes, their lingerie. Increasingly, I'm seeing women represented, and I think that's such a win and such a stance for where things are going. It was only just a few years ago that you didn't see Hollywood actresses letting their hair go white or being seen without makeup or really embracing their aging. Things are
Right?
shifting, and
They
I
are,
think
they are.
brands are starting to understand that they have to show us. They have to show us in their material.
I agree.
So
I agree with you. I think that they're shifting. I think that they're shifting very slowly, but they're definitely shifting and they're starting to come around. And I hope it's not too late in the making for a lot of our boomers to really enjoy. But
yeah,
as long as it's moving in the right direction, it will help, all the generations after. So I think that's really cool. What
Camille.
about,
Camille,
yes?
before you go on, I just want to say I'm so touched by your audience, your people,
Aren't they
your
beautiful?
community. They're just so supportive and loving. I feel so
I know.
moved
I
by the
know. Don't
comments and the
Don't tell
support.
anybody, but this is my favorite platform for people.
Gosh.
Like, the people on YouTube show up. They are so wonderful. They're so loving. I feel like I know them. I try to talk to them in the comments, and they're just beautiful.
Yeah,
And
thank you
I
all for those such supportive, beautiful comments for us.
and they teach me things too. So,
Yeah, amazing.
yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. So, I do want to talk about one more thing, and then we really need to get out of here.
Okay.
Um, what about aging gracefully?
Mm.
Oh, what it
Yeah. So my platform, the moniker that I use is Artful Aging
mhm,
because I want to embrace aging. I don't won't do anything. I won't do any kind of brand deal that has anti-aging in it because I don't want to perpetuate the message that we should be fighting aging. I don't want to be a part of the story that has us think that we cannot age because guess what? We're all aging. If we are trying to not
right.
because we're just going to age. So
Yeah.
my question is, how do we do it in an artful way? So artful is what I aim for because that's how I aim to live life is artfully. And we're all aging, so hopefully we're all doing it in artful ways. I know something like I think graceful aging is beautiful too. For me, artful aging has a wider range of things. You can be fierce, and strong in the world of artful. And so
Right.
for me, I have a model of artful aging that has four tenets to it. And the tenets are optimization. That means making the most, being the best you can be in all the ways, physically, emotionally, in terms of your body, how your mental capacity is, optimizing everything about where you are at the current stage in your life. And then the second tenet is reinvention. That means always be willing to change and grow and
Oh,
don't
yes.
get ossified or stuck in any moment in time or any age or any story about yourself. And then the third thing is rebranding. That means telling your story, showing up, and telling about the ways that you're optimizing and that you're reinventing yourself all the time so that you can be part of rewriting this narrative. That you can be a support for the other women who are coming up behind you to say, oh, yay, thank you for changing the narrative on aging. If we don't talk about it, it doesn't matter how much we optimize and how much we reinvent in ourselves. We kind of need to put it out there in the world. But the fourth one is what we already talked about, and that is the reality is no matter how much we optimize or reinvent or rebrand the stories on aging, we're going to age and there's going to be some grief and loss that comes with it. And so the fourth tenet is gracious acceptance. How do we
Yes,
go through this process in a way that says, okay, I know this is part of my humanity. This is part of being a human in this body in this time. So,
absolutely. Well said.
yeah.
So, before I forget to tell everybody, happy International Women's Day. If you haven't been,
Yes.
so that's exciting, and it's been an exciting day for that kind of thing for me. I was actually got to be privy of part of a group of YouTubers that all got together today under the hush hush, talking about exciting things coming. So that was
Nice. That's
fun,
awesome.
and of course it was a big women's group, so that was a lot of fun.
That's beautiful.
Okay, but
Camille,
anyway,
can I say one more thing? Can I say one
yeah,
more
of
thing?
course, of
Yeah, I'm
course.
just noticing that people are commenting on plastic surgery, and I really want to make a comment on that
Okay,
because
let's talk about it.
yeah, there's the sense a lot of times, and it comes back to that same comment about why are you promoting makeup or why are you promoting beauty or focusing on beauty or the external
Right.
self? And
Mhm.
I think that the plastic surgery is another place where people either have very strong opinions, either for it, they want to do all the things, or they have strong opinions against it that if you do plastic surgery, you're putting pressure on me too. And I just want
Right.
to name and normalize the fact that everyone gets to make their own choice. Part of what being a midlife woman who's in support of other women means is that we get to say yes to our own personal decisions and choices. And
Yes.
also, you are yes to your decisions for yourself too. So it doesn't matter where you fall on that spectrum. It's personal choice and empowerment.
It is a personal choice, and I think that a lot of times I wish people would keep their opinions to themselves. And having said that, I'm going to give you my opinion on plastic surgery because that's so like me. Um, I think that things like plastic surgery and dyeing your hair and just changing your appearance in general, however you decide to do it with liposuction or whatever floats your boat, I think that is just a personal thing. And if
Yeah.
you want to share it with people, share it with people. And if they want to support you, they're going to support you. And if they're not going to, then probably just don't have them in your life because they're not going to ever support whatever it is you're doing. So there's my 2 cents on the matter.
I
And I'm
I'm with you.
I'm happy, always happy to talk about plastic surgery. I know people who have had plastic surgery and it's turned out really, really well for them. And I feel like good for them. And then I know people who have had plastic surgery and are very unhappy with the results and
Yeah.
would never do it again.
Yeah.
And just like I know people who have said, they've gotten their eyebrows tattooed. Some people love it. It's worked out perfectly. Others say, no, it's awful. They messed them up. They're crooked, and I need an eyebrow stamp. So
Do you think it's okay to what do you think about people who have plastic surgery but then say they haven't? Do you think that that is damaging to the collective, or do you think that's also personal choice?
I think it's both. I think it
Yeah.
can be both because there is that thing where when everybody starts going to get, and I'm not picking on these people, but I'm going to pick on this one group. All the people who go and have weight loss surgery. Let's use them for an example.
Yeah.
Not really picking on them, but I think that the more people see other people do that and are look like they're successful, are actually kind of promoting it in a way.
Yeah.
I think that because they're very happy with it, and all they talk about is how wonderful it is. They don't talk about, oh, I had this problem and I had that problem. And some of them do, but I think in a way it promotes it. And so I think it's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
it's really
I
kind of
think you just
weird.
said it exactly right. It's both and. Like it is a personal thing and it's potentially
Yeah.
in disservice of the larger collective.
If
And as
I
far as
do,
plastic surgery goes, I hope that if I don't have any plastic surgery, but I do hope that if I do, that I cop
mm,
to it. for that
Yeah, I
reason.
was just gonna say, if I ever do anything, I will be transparent. It will hurt, but I will be transparent because
Exactly.
that's I mean, that's who I am. I don't want somebody going, are you taking, did you take this weight loss drug? And I want to say, no, I just got thin on
I
my
just
no,
Well,
no.
because there's so much shame. That's the other thing, because there is some degree of shame to
Yeah,
making that kind of choice. And
yeah.
so people are inclined to say no, to deny that they did it, that they've done it. And yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the same as
So
you. I feel
it's
similar.
I don't know, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say because in some ways I do think people promote it without wanting to promote it, and other ways they're not. So I think it depends on, your family, if you have
Yeah.
kids, what you're trying to show everybody. But for me, I would go ahead and just be out with it and be like, deal with it. If you
Yeah.
don't like that I did this, too bad. And my personal stance is that I'm trying to go Botox, filler, all surgery free of everything. I am working with a new device though that I'm going to make a video on in a couple of weeks. And I'm
Mm.
really terrified. I'm terrified of devices, and I have people reach out to me all the time that they want me to use their device so that I can show everybody how it changed my face, right? And the truth
Wow.
is, they do change. Some of them
They
actually
do?
do help yeah, some of them
Okay.
actually
I got to
do.
follow you for this
I
content.
know, I know.
Because I'm open
But
to devices. I just don't want to do surgery.
yeah, well, the first device I tried it was really powerful and it kind of scared me. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
there are devices that can actually like melt the fat on your face. And I did not know that at the time. And I think that I started to do that on my if I do a device, I'm going to really put my home to it because I definitely don't want to put my stamp of approval on anything that could potentially hurt somebody.
Well, this is why
So,
your
and
channel is such a good channel to follow, because you're committed to only saying what's true, and to sharing the real stuff, and to sharing your own personal experience. That makes it so valuable.
definitely trying to keep things on the up and up. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I have to talk about filters really quickly, and then I know we both got to get out of here, and everybody
Mhm.
else does too. And thank you so much for hanging in there with us. I love you girls and guys and whoever's out there. But now I forgot what I was going to say.
You were going to talk about filters.
Yeah,
Filters.
filters. It's so funny because every great once in a while, like I'll hop in the TikTok app and I'll make a quick, talking head video, and somebody will say, your skin looks really good. And I'll have to tell them in the comments, it does, but it's a filter. And every time I, use this platform, it looks really smooth and nice. And so I try to be really transparent and just keep
Me
it
too.
real
Same.
so that,
But you know what the
I'm
funny thing about TikTok is? It was a good year of using TikTok before I actually realized that there were subtle filters on, even when you're not putting the
me
filters on.
too.
And
Me
then I
too. I just
realized,
thought I
I was
looked
like,
good.
why when I go in this other platform where I record myself in my phone like this, I don't look as good
Right.
as on TikTok. That was
I
super smart,
know.
TikTok.
I know. I'm like, I just thought I looked that good. I didn't know what happened.
Exactly. So if there's a reason to start creating content on TikTok, you get to have no, I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. There's one more comment. I just want to say to your follower here, Janine Hill Cole, is talking about hip replacements. I've had 2 hip replacements too, change my life. So thank you, medical science. Gives me back dancing. And I actually have a video. If there's anybody in your audience who's thinking about or going to be having a hip replacement, I do have a video on my experience with hip replacement with some recommendations on it. So yeah.
Well, and I'm going to add something to that because my mom, who is I'm not allowed to say her age, but she's about 75. She 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 actually has had 4 hip replacements. So
Oh,
that's both of them replaced 2 times, and I mean she's still just like a little spitfire. So and hip replacements have really come a long way from
oh my
15 years
gosh.
ago to now. They're so much easier. So yeah, it seems like a wonderful thing.
I was dancing after 3 weeks after my second hip replacement.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Like
yeah.
that is
That was
amazing.
crazy, crazy recovery, but, anyway,
That is
just
yeah.
yay medical
Okay.
science. Yeah. Well, thank
Yes.
you so much, Camille.
So
This was so fun.
Okay, and one more time, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. And I will put all of Lisa's links in the description in the the top pinned comment tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah,
And
thank
thank you all for
you.
being here. We love you. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
So on YouTube, I'm findable as Lisa Lacroix, and I think I'm also findable as Artful Aging. And then on TikTok, I'm Lisa underscore Lacroix, and Lacroix is like the water that you might say Lacroix,
Mhm,
LACROIX.
mhm.
Lisa underscore Lacroix, Lacroix. And then I'm on Instagram as at Lisa BL. But mostly I'm on YouTube and TikTok, and I also have an older podcast called the Superpower You podcast on podcast platforms. So thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks for doing this with me tonight, Lisa. This was so much fun. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. We love you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Now I got to figure out how to turn this off. See ya.
Bye.